You've probably heard this practice advice before. Repetition, practice slowly, do it a bunch of different times, do it many, many more times. Even though that is good advice, sometimes you want something that gives you an edge in your practice sessions. And in today's video, I'm going to share with you the 3 pillars to help you master your violin playing and get you more efficiency in the practice room. Today we're going to talk about mastering the 3 pillars, the 3 C's: crisp, clarity, control. And each category is designed to help you become more efficient in your practice sessions. And also it's going to help you really master your craft sooner. And I don't know about you, but we live in a world today where we want to get from point A to point B in a very quick amount of time. And I hope that this advice is going to help you. Let's get your violin out. Let's get started. First up, crisp. What does crisp mean? Well, having a crisp sound is in relation to the right hand. Now, if you're new to the channel, I've always talked about solving problems, whether it is your left hand or your right hand. So first of all, you have to kind of dive deep first. Is the problem that's happening on my instrument a left hand issue or a right hand issue? When it comes to having crisp sound, more than likely it's going to be a right hand issue. Now, if you have your violin with me, you have your bow. This is your bow, your violin bow is going to help you get the best sound that you want. Now, we want to have a crisp sound. Now, what does it mean to have a crisp sound? That's just another way of saying articulation. Now, articulation is how we create the sound on the instrument, whether it is a short sound, a long sound. Those in Italian it's staccato or détaché or legato. Those are the 3 ones that kind of pop into my mind right now. So if I'm looking for a crisp sound, I'm trying to have good contact with the bow and the string. Very simple. You can do this with your scales. You can do staccato when you're doing your G major scales. Now, another nugget is you can place your finger before you actually pull the bow. In Suzuki Book 1, it says really clearly, finger, bow, then go. Now, professional violinists, they do this at a very, very quick speed during their practice and during their performances on stage in front of an orchestra. This is just going through a microscope on what you should be doing. So when you are practicing, you want to have a crisp sound, meaning that you want a clear beginning of the note and you want a clear ending of the note. So if I'm playing a down bow, let's say a legato, I'm clearly starting from the string and I have a clear bow change here. That's one way to practice, right? And you can also do this with your scales. Now, you want to make sure you are having a crisp sound by doing staccato, for instance. If I'm going to have a clear beginning and a clear end to the note. Very, very clear that you want to have that crisp sound. Now, this is how you achieve clean notes. When you are struggling in the practice room, when you are trying to find ways to have a cleaner sound, try that. Start there when you are trying to get a clean sound. Most of the time, it is a right hand issue. Maybe your bow is not straight. Maybe it's at an angle. And I have many videos on the channel regarding straight bows, so I encourage you to check them out. But also, if it is not a right hand, if you feel convinced that it is a right hand, not a right hand issue, then try going towards the left hand. The left hand also gives you clues as to if you're maybe not pressing hard enough, if your sound is not clear. You can have this harmonic sound. And if you're not pressing hard enough, then that is going to be a dead giveaway for having a crisp sound. A crisp sound is also having the ability to put your fingers down in enough weight onto the fingerboard so that you can create that sound. And this is a great segue into the next C, which is clarity. You want your notes to be clear. And this is more of a left hand issue. So the crisp sound is a right hand issue, making sure that your bow and your equipment is working and you have rosin on your bow All of that is taken care of. And then the clarity is mostly a left hand issue. There are some moments where clarity is actually a right hand issue, and I'm going to talk about that in a second. But clarity, for the most part, is a left hand issue, partially because of what I said earlier, is not having enough weight on the fingerboard. And you might hear very clearly, I have my microphone over here. What I'm doing is I'm articulating the left hand, making sure that I'm having the precise placement of my fingertips or finger pads on the left hand. Now, there are many benefits to doing this. If you get the right finger in the right place, that actually enhances your violin sound, believe it or not. So let's say you're playing a third finger on A. That is a D on our violin. Third finger on A is a D on our violin. Well, we also have other Ds on our instruments, such as the open D. And if I play that note correctly, if I play that note in the right, like dead on center of that note, you hear how my note is really resonant. And that goes back to clarity. Once you establish the crispness and you go to the clarity part, the second pillar, your third finger, for instance, is going to sound really, really resonant. And that's going to be clear for whatever repertoire you're playing. But before we get to the third pillar of today's video, I want to give you a special offer of 15% off some of my courses on Violin Academy Online. As an introductory offer to you, I want to give you 15% off. If you are new, if you're someone who is just not able to afford private violin lessons, but you want to get started as a hobby, this is the thing for you. I want to give you this offer for you to kind of get your feet wet. So use the code VIOLINSTART at checkout using 15% off. And you can dive right in with vibrato, and also what we just talked about is having the clarity, which is the right hand, and having a good bow hold. A good bow hold will help you master that clarity in one of the three pillars that I'm talking about. So check it out. I'm going to leave a link down in the description below, and also use Violin Start as a promo code in checkout. The idea is for you to help control your instrument. Having full control and not like guessing what you're doing is an essential part of learning how to play the violin. Is like you're not just guessing how to get the right notes, you're actually achieving the right notes. So you want to have that precision. That's the key word here, the precision, to be able to do all that before you get to the control. So when you're practicing slowly, you know, that's age-old advice, practicing slowly. Itzhak Perlman always talks about if you practice slow, you forget slow. I always preach that to my students. I always credit him for that. You want to have control of everything you are doing up here on your violin. It's going to help you get that violin mastery. So, for instance, the control here, having control of every single fingertip placement on your fingerboard. But also it goes back to my previous comment about what I was going to suggest when it comes to clarity in the right hand. I'm talking about clarity in the left hand, but the clarity in the right hand are the string crossings, making sure that you are using the appropriate arm height to get from one string to the next when you're going up the violin strings from G to E and then E to G. So for instance, when I'm going, at one point when you do a string crossing on a micro level, there is a double stop that is happening, and let me demonstrate that for you. So you hear that, right? So when I play, you know, those are some ways that you can kind of help control that clarity. It's like actually paying attention to what your right arm is doing when you're going from E to G string. Very important that you get that. So that is the theory, having crisp clarity, control over your violin playing. Now, what are some exercises for you to actually achieve all this? Well, as I said before, scales is a no-brainer. Schrodiak Opus 1 is another great option. If you are more of an intermediate level, this is a great stepping stone from going from scales, but you want something a little bit more interesting than Schrodiak Opus 1. I'll leave another link down in the description below. It's free online. It's going to be a really great resource for you. Thirdly, this is something I did in the beginning of the video, and it's just tapping, trying to get that strength in the left hand, especially the fourth finger. I'm actually teaching someone, a high school student, Mendelssohn Violin Concerto, and we were talking about the articulation of the pinky, and that is the weakest finger. It's the weakest link of all the fingers. So having that little extra tapping of the fourth finger is going to really help you. And what you're doing is you're creating muscle in the side of the hand by doing this. And you can see how, like, after many years I've built muscle on the side. And if I was a pianist, then I would have muscle on the right side too. I don't, because I'm not a pianist, but I have a lot more muscle on the left hand. So those are the 3 pillars of mastering your violin skill set. And I hope that these tips are valuable. If they are valuable, make sure you share them with another colleague or share them with another violin friend that you're learning violin with. If you have any questions, leave your comments down below. I try to get to as many comments as I possibly can. And if you like this video, if you made it to the end, again, my name is Eric, and I'm dedicated to helping you become a better violinist. Subscribe down below, hit the like button, and check out some of these other videos in regards to some of the topics that I've talked about.